What's up everybody, Straw Hats Are Cool here, and we are back again with another video. Today we're going to be hopping back on the ranked sim and playing some more games with Red Purple Luffy. We already did a deck profile where I go in depth and talk about some of the card choices, so if you're looking to pick up Red Purple Luffy as a deck to play, I'd highly recommend you check out that video before watching this one. So I'll go ahead and try and remember to have that linked up above. I will say one quick thing is that after playing nearly 40 games with this deck, I probably would cut the Baccarat and put back in the 2 copies of Starter Deck 10 Law. While this card seems really good on paper, it really didn't come up too often, and I think that the Law would help a lot against decks like Bonnie, as well as make your Enel matchup a little bit better. So I think I would probably swap this for that. It's still a blocker, but that's probably the only change I'd make. I'm really happy with how the deck's done. We've done very well with this deck. I've already recorded all the games, so yeah, I hope you all look forward to the games. But with all that said, let's go ahead and jump right in. Alrighty, we are up against the Robert Lucci, trying to make the Red Purple Luffy work in the 07 format. Our opponent here is getting to choose the turn order. They choose to go first. I think in this matchup, I'm really looking for 10 drop Luffy. So we're gonna mull that one. And not bad. Go ahead and grab that Luffy as the only target. Lots of top end right now. Gonna be swinging 6k. Crashes a Moria and a Rebecca. Must be 2 Dawn for the stage. I think I'll take it. Get the Jambe. There's the stage. Another dragon. A lot of top end. Maybe a little too much. Go ahead and ramp though. Puts us up to 7 this next turn. Probably play out the queen next turn and try and draw into some more counter. They probably need to start developing board here, so maybe they won't attack into us, but we'll see what they decide to do. They are still going to be swinging 6. I think I will give them 1 queen. Assuming they don't swing for more. Is just gonna be a 6k at us. Crashes Lucci and a Khalifa. Don't think they've, well, they have stage, so they could, I don't know, I guess they could Lucci. Does not look like that's going to be the move. Just going to draw that Rob Lucci. Play that out next turn. Let's start with the queen. It's actually not bad here. Can get rid of the Rebecca. Then I am counterless. Oh well. This is the issue with old Luffy, if you do find yourself in these scenarios. But we've got, and they probably, what, the -2, -1. We've got a -3. They can get both these with their Lucci, but their Tempest Kick isn't active yet, so they're gonna need like a Helmeppo. That would get the job done. Next turn we can either play the Newgate or the Dragon. Dragon lets us put more pressure on them. Newgate's a bit more defensive, but it kind of depends on what they do here. They're just swinging 5, which means they're not attacking into us. They do lose another Gecko Moria there. Gonna be reducing the Bond Clay. They do have the Helmet Bow, so they are going to be getting rid of both. They did have one Dawn left to make it so they could attack into us, but they chose not to. Don't know what other one Dawn play they could have. Looks like they just did their math wrong there. I think in this spot it's probably a little better to establish the Newgate. Make it harder for them to attack into us next turn. We do only have the 1k counter in hand. Next turn maybe we can play Dragon. And then Luffy the following turn if we're able to live that long. Our hope here is that they don't attack heavily into us this next turn. Could even go for Luffy next turn if it comes down to it. We do have 2 Jambes. Depending on how much counter in the hand, that we might just be able to get the win. Baccarat would have been nice earlier, letting us use some of these dead cards. Not going to be powering that attack up, so we're going to get to survive. Well, we're not going to have to counter out of that first attack. But it does look like Newgate's probably going to bite the dust here. Got another stage, brings it down to 5, brings it down to 4. Then Brook will get the job done. We can do Dragon, or we could just go ahead and do the Luffy now. I almost think I like that better. Puts a lot of pressure on them, and then we've still got Dragon. We probably get them to 0, and then I've got Jambe. So let's go ahead and do the Luffy here. Bottom deck those. We get back 1 down here, 1 there. We swing 7. I imagine they counter out of this one. They don't. They're making a pretty big mistake. Unless they don't have 2Ks, maybe. Even still, I think you gotta give me the 3 cards here if you don't got a 2K. It's just very telling of what's to come. Yeah, they didn't have 2Ks. We get another turn. Can't use that, but we can use that. Would play out the Baccarat here. Or the Sanji. Sanji's just a little beefy. Harder to get rid of. Also a bigger body. Let's do the Sanji. Get the reduced cost because we do have quite a few less Dawn than our opponent here. We won't be on enough Dawn to play the Dragon next turn. So... well, wait, how does it work? So we go 7. Actually, I think we could play it next turn because we can get 1 back with the Luffy, which puts us on 8. 1 rested. We get 1 back active, which puts us on 8. We do still have the option for dragon, but they didn't have 2Ks. As long as we don't die here, we should be locked in since we've got the Diablo Jambe here. Go ahead and give them the 1K counter there. They need to get 3 hits in. Take this. Am I in danger? I don't think so. Sure. Buff ourselves up a little more since we don't have Dawn active. All they've got left to swing with is the Helmet Bow. I'm going to keep that Sanji there. And it looks like they're not even getting rid of the Luffy, so we just get to do a huge swing with Diablo Jam. And that's going to close out the game. I think Lucci is actually a pretty okay matchup, so long as we can survive in the late game. I've seen a lot of lists dropping the 10 drop Luffy, but I think for this matchup specifically, it does help a lot, as it does help you put a lot of aggression on them. And if they don't wall up with blockers early, a lot of times like this, we can just get them down to 0. If we have the Jambe, that's just gonna lock up the game for us. 5 done left. We're definitely not dying this turn, and I don't see any world in where they're removing Luffy and the Sanji. Even if they're playing something like the Ice Age, they're only getting 1. They trash the Tempest Kick off of the Sabo alongside the Isho. This can just be another Sabo. So yeah, this should all be locked up because we've got the Jambe. Go ahead and gain 1. Gain 1. Jambe. And a lot. GG's. I don't... Yeah, there's no way. Even if it's all 2Ks. Which it was not. Oh, they always leave before I can even say GG. But yeah, that's a game there against the Lucci. We're up against the Boa Hancock player again. I believe this is the 3rd time we've played against this particular Boa player. We've gotten it the last 2. We'll see if we can get it a 3rd time. They're gonna mull as well. Do a Nami search. Just grab the Radical Beam, I suppose. They swing 8. I think we'll counter it just to try and play around the pudding that we got hit with the first time we played against the Boa. It was a little bit annoying. We'll give him a Sanji and the Nico Robin, as those are not cards that do a lot for us in this matchup. There's Luffy. We'll go ahead and do Bond Clay, swing 7. I would be surprised if they don't. I wouldn't be surprised if they counter out of this one here. Puts them down to 4, so 5 after draw, meaning they could get something off their leader effect if they have a way to remove a card from play. On 5 Dawn, I wouldn't figure they do. There's gonna be that. We'll take that one. We can do 7 here. We're just gonna do a lot of 7K attacks. 7 here. And then 7 with their leader. They got the... We will counter that one for sure. Does not feel like that was the best use of their gravity blade to me. See what we can find here. Grab another 2K. I could play out the Frankie. I do that. Could get a couple 7K attacks in. Right, because I can go 5 plus 3, that's 8. That's 7, 7. I don't know, seems funny. See what they do. Would have been really sick if we had a dragon here. Do another 7. Forces them down to 3 cards, or they take. That's what we want, because next turn we're probably playing Luffy out. Trigger that on the Nami's interesting. I bet they thought they could hit the Frankie with it and just get it off the field. Not the case. He is a 5 cost with a very bad stat line. But he's a 2K counter. So. Got another Jinbei and Edward Weevil. Swinging into our guy. Counter that one. Take the 8. They not got a blocker here, so the Luffy probably just wins the game. I don't know why people aren't playing the Luffy. I'm telling you, the card's still really good in certain matchups. So I swing 7 here. They give me 2 cards, or they take. They probably give me 2 cards. Unless they don't have 2Ks, in which case they give me 3 cards. They do got 2Ks. Then we do this. I do 9 to be safe, so I can leave up the Radical Beam. Because if they counter out of this, I'm just going to attack into board. They don't, which means 13 should be guaranteed. Yup. So yeah, Gear 5 Luffy, I'm telling you guys, still play this card. You don't need to play it at 3 or 4, but just a nice little 2 of, it's searchable. And when they don't have blockers, just wins the game. And even if they do have blockers, sometimes you just got the Jinbei. You know, out of all the games we've played so far, I have played 32 games. I have not yet played against a black-yellow Luffy on the ranked sim, which, now that I'm thinking about it, is kind of surprising. We don't want them to know about the Jinbei, and we've already got the Jinbei, so we're just going to take a 2K. I don't know if it's correct to attack into them with this deck, but we are going to try it. We're just going to try and turbo to Luffy since we've got it in hand. For those who don't know, and I've mentioned this in most of the videos where I cover red purple Luffy, if you play this, they lose their buffs on the extra turn because the little characters, if you read them, they state that they only get the buff until the end of the opponent's turn. So you do that, they lose their buff on the extra turn. They are playing the Kuzan build. I don't think it is correct to play Kuzan in the deck, but that's just my opinion. They're at 7. We go 8-8. That starts forcing cards. Or they take and they block and yada yada. They block. We know they've got a little Sabo. They just searched it, if I'm not mistaken. They're gonna do Luffy to pop the Zoro. Then they'll do Sabo. We are gonna play Newgate. That's what we're gonna do. We are gonna play Newgate and pass. We don't want them to get that Sabo back. They've only got one Sabo down there. They're still not on 10 Dawn, so they can't do a Gecko Moria play either. All they've got's Luffy's. Already played one little Luffy. Hopefully they don't have a way to get multiples. Makes it hard for them to attack into us. They just going for it. Seems suspicious. They are searching. Three Brothers Bond. Oh, they trashed Three Brothers Bond. Okay. So they are only a 7k leader. And they're going to lose that buff. We don't even need the blocker. Do we just go? You've only got the one attacker. If they counter out of the 10, I'll just... Yeah, they take... Yeah, they did not have it. Cool. And yeah, I think in this matchup you can afford to be a little bit more aggressive than you would playing any other deck, especially if you open the Luffy and the Jambe like we did there. You force them to start walling up early. You're pretty tanky yourself, and then once, you know, we get towards the end game, you just play the Luffy, and it usually just ends the game. Enel can be a tough matchup if we don't see the right cards. It's one where 10-drop Luffy is not exceptionally good. We want Shanks. Newgate's also pretty good. But we want the Shanks. That's what we really want. Doing Flampe. Double Flampe. They might be playing the rush build. They're playing out Flampes all willy-nilly like that. Normally I don't like attacking them, but since they're already down to 2, maybe we just swing with Luffy Nami next turn, assuming they don't just remove the Nami somehow. I think they're playing way too aggressive, playing double Flampe like that. Do 6. Take. And so yeah, we're gonna force some cards out now. Either they're going to 0, or they're giving me 2 cards. They are giving me 2 cards. Sick. We're only on 5. We haven't gotten a ramp. Means we don't really have anything to do next turn. Unless we top deck something good. Swinging into the Nami might just put everything on the leader, but they are just going to play out the Luffy. I think we just play out a Sanji and pass. They can't kill the Sanji with the Luffy. They're on 8 Dawn. They could catch a curry. But I think I'm okay with that, if that's what they want to do. I'll take this one. We get another dragon. 6 Dawn. They're just going to go ahead and Rygo. Don't think I want to take both of those. We can Nami. I think we'll take Beam, Newgate, and just attack into the Luffy. They want to give me cards for that. That's great. They used a Rygo on the Sanji, which seems a bit wasteful. Makes me think they were worried I was just going to attack with it and put him down to nothing. To go. They can't catch a curry this one. They are on 10. Would be ace. Is ace. It's always ace. I almost just want to attack into it. We can just attack into it. That feels a little bad. But I don't know, I can't have that thing sticking around, to be honest. Just try and put him back down to 1. Don't love doing that either. Because if they have another ace, they get to play it and rush at us again. And you know how it goes, they always have. all 4 ace. Them's just the rules, apparently. But they're thinking about it, so maybe they don't have the ace. And if they're thinking this long and do just play an ace, they suck. I'm running out of things to talk about, and they're making this as slow and painful as possible. Come on, buddy. You can play a card. It's Enel, it's not that hard. Oh wow, look, they had another ace, and they took 40 years to make that play. Wow. That's really cool. Stupid. Okay. Banks was a good top deck for us. Potentially can close out the game next turn, but you gonna Rygo me? Sure does look to be the case. I have 2 Dawn left to work with. See how they like little 10 ski. They take. I just lose now. Nice. Unless they have nothing. Sick, dude. Maybe if I do this, they go to 0, they get scared, they don't go for game. They left 1 up. Have 4 cards in hand. I need them to be scared. Okay. We do have another dragon. By doing this, we're playing around a beige. If I just go 15, is that better than 9-9? I think so. Whoosh! We shouldn't have won, but they were scared. After we took that 6, they should have just put everything on the flampe. Up against yet another Rob Lucci. I've played against a lot of Luccis. We're going first. This hand's probably a little greedy to keep, but I've got rushers. And now Luffy. If we can live, it's probably pretty good. I'm just gonna give him the Baccarat here. Can do that for 1 card. They got stage. 2 Bon Clay. Don't really have a good play next turn. Because I imagine Bon Clay is gonna bite the dust here. Take that. Queen's decent. Because we'll still be going to 8 next turn with Queen. Don't think we need 2 Jambes. Do 7. Do we need to play Nami here? Don't really know what we'd be looking for. But sure, why not? Get us another 2k seems fine. Could have grabbed another beam, but I think just the 2ks will be good enough here. They can bring it down to 2 with that, so they're still not getting it with Brook. They need to invest something else into it, so I will just counter that one. Okay, they've got the 6 cost Brook, which will just remove that. Okay, we can ramp. Do this. Do I need to leave up 1? Probably should. I'm gonna try and Luffy next turn anyways. Just go for it. Force cards out. Dragon's very good here, so yeah, they end up taking both those. They do have 10 cards in hand. I suppose I could try and go for game, but probably not wise. Down to 5. I'm gonna do a gecko. No. Brings it down to 4. Another Brook. Just do Luffy. Do 7. I'm sure they counter this one. Probably should leave up the 2 beams. Let's see if we can get another 2Ks out. Didn't have it, so I probably could have just gone for game. Let's take out a Brook now. I feel like we're not gonna die with the 2 beams. They are gonna try and get rid of the Luffy. We may end up losing this one. I should have just gone all in, I guess. I'm surprised they gave us 2 2Ks on the first attack. They didn't have a ton of them. Just swinging 4 brings it down to 3. If they play a blocker here, I'm in a bad spot. I should have just gone for life, put him to 0. I think I need the queen now. They're probably gonna do, yeah, Rebecca, Suru, Spandine. I think we let ourselves get cooked here. We can live, maybe? I don't know. Another beam's not bad. Got 2K. Full board. Tendon. Going 8 Dawn next turn. The dragon's not good. I'm gonna do Sabo. Seven. Yeah, we lose. Unless they have nothing. And we can go for Jambe and they take this. They did. Just block. They say we're so lucky. They absolutely threw that. I mean, like, they blocked that and there's no way I can win, but they took the hit. That was a sloppy game from me because I should have just put them to 0. I don't think I was in danger of dying with the 2 radical beams. So that's on me. I should have lost because of that. And now they're saying I'm lucky, but really they're just not good. All right, everyone, and we are back with the post-game stats. So we played a total of 36 games with Red Purple Luffy. We won 29 of them and lost 7 of them, giving us an overall win percentage of about 80%. If you round up, it's about 81%. So we did very, very well with Red Purple Luffy. I definitely think this deck has a lot of potential and can still compete in the OP07 format. It is a little bit draw dependent, but a lot of your key card, the Luffy's searchable, a lot of your top end isn't, but with cards like Queen, we are able to filter, and generally speaking, we will find the cards we want. If we want to talk about more specific matchups, I played 4 games against Enel. I won 3 of them and lost 1. This matchup is not as bad as a lot of people make it out to be. If they chain aces, which they do quite often, it can be a little bit sketchy. But if you play smart, you're usually able to squeak out the win in the end as long as you build a big board. The biggest thing you need to watch out for is if they have multiple Rygos, it can be a little bit sketchy. I think in this matchup you want to go second. You generally, you generally don't want to attack into them early. One of the Enels I played against was very aggressive, and they played 2 Flampe on like their first turn going second. So in that game I did end up being a little bit more aggressive, but generally speaking, I think you want to leave them at least 2 life if you're going to attack into them. That way they can't get heal with their Yamato, and if they do heal with the ace, they're not getting the rush. So I think that's kind of the general game plan, is you just want to try and build a board and not attack into them until you've done so. I played a whopping 11 games against Rob Lucci, and we won all of them. If you watched the video all the way through, you'll know that the game that I included in the video today against Lucci, we probably should not have won, but my opponent definitely made a crucial error in that one, so we were able to get the win there. This matchup, I don't think it's mattered too much whether you go first or second. Generally, I think you want to go second, as it does mess with their curve. But Red Purple Luffy's going first curve is honestly very powerful, so I don't really think it matters too much. But if you had the choice, I would probably choose to go second just because it messes with their curve. This matchup's pretty easy as long as you kind of curve out and you can be really aggressive. Even if you don't have a ramper on turn 2, you can sometimes just swing with your Nami instead, which is also good, just putting more pressure on your opponent, forcing cards out of their hand. Dragon's a really big part of this matchup, and then you can just close it out with the 10-drop Luffy. And sometimes Jambe comes in clutch as well. Now, I only played 1 game against Law, and I did lose that game. I think it was my own fault. I think I could have won, but I did my math wrong and ended up giving up my whole hand when I should not have. I don't know how, out of 36 games played, I only played against 1 Law being one of the more popular decks in the current format. Very surprising that we only played against 1. As much as I would love to keep playing with this deck, I did have to wrap this video up so I can get it out for you guys on time. So I was digging to try and find more Laws, but I only played against the 1. I think you probably want to go second just to mess with their curve again. I guess Law has a pretty good going first curve too. Generally speaking though, in this matchup, you're just trying to be really aggressive and then close the game out with a 10-drop Luffy. We only played 2 games against Starter Deck 13 Luffy, but this is definitely one of our better matchups. You can even afford to be more aggressive in this one. Unfortunately, I wasn't recording the second game I played against it. I think that would have been a really fun one to showcase. But I was swinging into them early because I had a really good curve. I opened with the 10-drop Luffy and Diable Jambe. So I knew that as soon as I got to 10 and I had the ramp to do it quickly, I could basically just close out the game, and that's exactly what we did. But even if not, you can just start developing a big board and then play the Luffy once they start walling up, because they lose all their stats on the extra turn. This matchup's pretty straightforward, but I think a smart black yellow Luffy player could make things a little trickier by, instead of like going up to a 9k leader, they might just stay at 7 and leave 1 life up. That's probably a pretty good strat if you're the black yellow Luffy player. Played 2 games against Nami. This matchup, pretty straightforward. You're really just trying to force Nami to be inefficient with their Dawn, and that's what any deck needs to do against Nami. But I think Red Purple Luffy can do this exceptionally well, just because we do play a lot of big, powerful characters. So I don't think I'll probably include any of the games, because people don't really like to watch you play against Nami. It's not the most exciting experience for sure. But generally speaking, in this matchup, you want to go second to deny them that extra draw, and you just want to start playing big bodies. If they are using their Dawn for things like Pilaf and Kaya's early, depending on how much Dawn you're at, you can just throw everything on your leader, and they'll probably be forced to take it, or they'll have to give you quite a few cards. But your kind of goal is to force them to take it, so you really only want to be attacking early when they don't have a lot of Dawn up. So if you do, say, swings 13 with leader, they're going to have to take it, is the hope, because that way you're forcing them to, they basically just leave their Dawn up for nothing if you do that. But then once you get into the later turns, if they are being very aggressive and using their Dawn to play things like Kaya's or Zeph's, and I know most builds aren't playing Zeph right now, but if they are, if they play anything, like I said, the Kaya's, Zeph's, Pilaf's, and they do go down on Dawn, those are the turns where you want to be swinging more, because it means they've got less Dawn used for counter events. But if they just pass with 10 Dawn up and you've got a big body to play, just play the big body instead, because they basically just wasted their whole turn if that's what you do. So all about just forcing them to be inefficient with Dawn usage. You know, Nami's not a super popular deck, but it is popping up more in OP07, so I do think it's a deck you do need to know how to play around. So that's just kind of my tips for that one. For Bonnie, we played against 5 Bonnies. We won 2 of them and lost 3. I definitely think I could have won one of the ones I lost, but I made a pretty big misplay because I ended up taking a hit to a Hody Jones when I thought I had Dawn up for a Radical Beam, but because they played the Hody Jones, I didn't realize that they had rested the Dawn, and I ended up losing because of not countering out of the hit I could have countered out of. So that one was a bit unfortunate, but it is what it is. This matchup can be tricky if they see their right top end pieces. Shanks is a really important card in this matchup. I generally speaking would mull for that card just because they also play big bodies, but they're all less than 10k. It's really nice when they spend their whole turn playing something like a Zoro and you're just able to answer it with the Shanks. So I think that's probably the most important card in this matchup. I think you want to go second in this matchup as well. It denies them their going second curve. But I think if you go first, it can work out for you as well, because I really feel like Luffy does have a really strong going first curve in this format. Played 5 games against Boa, and I should say that these were not all ranked games. Like 5 of these games were from my locals this evening, and I just went ahead and included them here as well. So we played 5 games against the Boa. We won all of them. I guess technically I did kind of a for fun game against one of my friends, so I should say I'm 5-1 because I did lose to him. But this matchup I think is pretty good. You're just able to be really aggressive, and because they're mostly 5k bodies, being a 6k leader comes in pretty clutch in this matchup. Oftentimes you just kind of get to 10 Dawn, play the Luffy, and you just win on the spot. Ideally, you have some form of ramp into Dragon, into Luffy. That has been my kind of like best way to curve out. But Newgate's also good in this matchup because Newgate and Kid, I should say, if they spend their turn getting rid of it, they're probably not getting many, if any, attacks into you because of the additional buff you get on your leader. And due to the fact that they really typically only play 5k bodies with the exception of their 10 drop and the Boa Hancock, it's very difficult for them to get an attack into you. So this matchup I think is pretty straightforward, but if they see a bunch of red rocks, it can be a little tough. Played one game against Zoro. This one was at my locals. It was in finals against my wife, and she clobbered me. It's a really bad matchup for Luffy. Zoro just goes wide and has rushers, and they can poke a bunch of 6Ks at you, and because you're only a 3-life leader, generally you don't have the resources to keep countering out of all their 6K attacks. But Zoro not a matchup you're going to see too often in the current format. One game against Newgate, one game against Luffy, one game against Reiju, and 2 games against Starter Deck 13 Sabo. These are called kind of niche decks in the current format, so I'm not going to talk about them too in depth. Newgate, pretty straightforward. You want to see Luffy. Once they go to 0, you just play that and basically win. Luffy, also fairly straightforward. They generally have, they have a good curve, but it's a lot worse into a 6k leader. And especially once you're able to start playing like your kids and Newgates, it can be really rough for them. Reiju, they have to spend a lot of Dawn minusing, and most of their bodies are relatively small, so this one's also pretty straightforward. Starter Deck 13 Sabo I actually think is a pretty rough matchup for the deck because they go really, really fast, kind of like Zoro, and then they also have healing. But we're 1-1 against it. So yeah, that is the matchups. That's how we did. Went ahead and added that one loss to the Boa because I forgot about the one I played at locals against my friend this evening. But that leaves us with a still roughly nearly 80% win rate with the deck, 29-8. Definitely nothing to scoff at. I think, like I said, this deck has a lot more potential than I think people are giving it credit for. It has a fairly solid matchup spread. And ultimately, one of the things I think that gives you a little bit of an edge when playing a deck like Red Purple Luffy is that it's not a deck that people are going to be testing for. So while, the best players are probably going to know how to play around it, you might be able to beat some good players just because they don't know how to play into your deck. And I do think that that is something that gives you a little bit of an advantage if you take a deck like Red Purple Luffy into a big event. But that's going to wrap things up for today's video. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you all in the next video. Peace.